It's still morning, right? Good morning, everybody. How you doing? Wonderful, cool. I'm glad we can do this. Thanks for Spiel to having me out to talk about discovering jobs in the tabletop gaming industry. Who here right now is looking to work in board games and RPGs and minis and things like that? Cool, we got a good hands, cool. We will do a Q&A and ask some questions and things like that, so they'll have the cool dice with the mic in that, which would be great. I'll put the, oh, hold on, but you're good. Cool. Awesome. So, hello, I'm Ross Thompson, and I am the Director of Marketing at Atomic Mass Games. We do the miniatures games for Star Wars and Marvel, so if you know Star Wars Legion, Star Wars Shatterpoint, MCP, stuff like that, we can do that. And then also, I co-run the Tabletop Game Jobs group on Facebook with Jessica Fisher, who runs that with Gamosity. It's a 25,000 person gaming group on Facebook where we share the different roles that are out there. We've been doing it for about 7 years now, and so we update it pretty much daily where we share different roles in the gaming industry and stuff like that. So what's fascinating is I've worked in the gaming industry for about 16 years. I got my start working at a game store in high school, and then I ended up running and volunteering with like Privateer Press and different companies, doing demos at conventions and at game stores and doing all of that. And then eventually what happened was they're like, hey, we're hiring for a retail support specialist. Would you want to do that? And I was like, oh man, I know a bunch of these game stores in California, and I've kind of been to these conventions like that. I would love to do that. So when I got that role, it kind of threw me into the industry and this larger side of it. Here I am 15 years later now, working at AMG, doing all these things, and which has been a lot of fun. So how do you find a job in the gaming industry? Obviously, we've got so many companies that are here at Spiel, doing stuff across the board, but somebody had to make those games, somebody had to ship those games, somebody had to do the art for those games, we had to play test, and so on, and there's so much stuff going on. There's around 5,000 games that come out a year, which is pretty crazy, and there's however many game stores we have in different countries and so on, but everybody has to do that. So I think one of the main things that when I talk to people about, oh my gosh, what do you want to do in the industry, is you got to think about, well, what kind of job do you want to do? Because everybody goes, oh my gosh, I love playing games, I love writing my DM adventure, I love doing all these things, but it's still work, right? And so when you think about that, one of the things that I find very fascinating is that we are now in a time with crowdfunding and with the internet, how there's so many more jobs that have opened up. So when you look at like a traditional publisher, we have people that are doing game design. There is the game designer and there is the game developer. Those are two different things that are out there. So if you're, oh my gosh, I want to get into game design, sometimes there are folk that are doing the actual game design, but once we've signed a game from a publisher or internally, then there's somebody that's doing game development. And that person will be the internal team, they'll run that, they'll work with play testers and so on to help firm the game up to make sure it looks like what the company needs. Along with that, there's also somebody that is like the inventor relations person. It's kind of a new role. It's always been around, but it's been more firmed up lately. So there's somebody that will be here at Essen, for example, meeting with different publishers, doing things. It's a lot of networking and all of that. And then also, when you kind of look into the game design stuff, there's folk that are doing fulfillment and knowing what's going on there. So that's kind of with the game design category on that. Then we have people that are doing marketing. Of course, we've got people that do events, we've got people that do social media, we've got people that do trade marketing for retail and stuff like that. So if you're somebody I've worked in sales or I've worked in distribution, that's a job that could go pretty well on that end too. On the same boat, of course we have publishers, but then there's distribution. So if you're somebody that likes working with shipping games out or doing these things, you can find a lot of those jobs there. I could go off and list all these different roles that are out there, which is kind of fascinating to think about. But when you go through that, you kind of want to think about what job do I want to be doing? And then where do I find those jobs? So first off, if you want to find those jobs, I wish the gaming industry was much better at it. Go to their careers page and find this thing and you'll find it on there. But a lot of people, they aren't updating it as well as you would like. Sometimes the listings are old and everything there. So who here is currently active on like a LinkedIn or an Indeed? Get your hands up a little bit, right? So there are a lot more jobs shared on LinkedIn than I ever thought there would be. I'm on there pretty much daily looking for different things for different companies and stuff like that. So if you are looking for a job in the gaming industry, having a mildly active LinkedIn account is going to be good. Just keeping it updated, making sure your resume is good on that kind of end there. Don't have to listen to everybody's posts and things, but just kind of have an idea of what's going on. And then as you're looking, it's not just the pages, but people that work at the different companies. Hey, we're hiring for these roles here. We're hiring. So like right now, there's a big show going on in LA called Lightbox. where it's a big artist and illustrations show. So like Ravensburger and Hasbro and a couple other companies, they're there looking at more galleries and archives and things to pick up new artists and new things, which is something pretty neat. So like for Lorcana, they're always getting new artists and those kind of things going on. So as that goes on, you can kind of check that out. Same kind of thing now as you're on Indeed. They've been doing a lot more job sharing on that, so you can find the roles that are happening, and you can kind of get on that site and go, hey, cool, this is what I want to find and do all that. But if not, you kind of want to check out and search what's happening there. Kind of as we go on that, well, I don't really have a lot of experience. If somebody's like, I want to get my resume going, how can I make sure that my experience applies to gaming? Because sometimes your work may be the traditional job that you've been in, and it may not do all that. I want to say right now that even playing games and doing all this stuff, that definitely applies for your career and going on with that. So if you're, who here like is part of a playtest group for a company? A couple of hands up, no, right? Or just in general, right? So one of the things, if you want to get into game design and see how these things working, a lot of these game companies have playtest groups that are going on. A lot of companies have people that work for them at shows, and those are good ways to kind of get in there because not everything is published, not everything is going on. So even all that work with working with your friends on making a game, getting a thing going, being in these playtest groups, that's all kinds of stuff that will build for your experience because then you'll know, oh, here's how AEG does their playtest group. Here's how this company does that. And a lot of the times when we look for like a game designer or a game developer, we can kind of see, oh, hey, we've got a couple of folk that are really good and know these factions. Here's what their write-up looks like. Here's their thoughts on how this math should work. And when we put it for these hirings, letting them know what's going on is very helpful. Some water really quick, been talking straight. So, we're still on mic, great. So, as we kind of get into it and we're like, okay, I need to know what job I want to do and everything there, it's fascinating to think about, well, if I want to work in games, one of the great ways is to get to know these game companies. And so there are a lot of ways right now that you could just go and work for a company at a show because that'll let you know, hey, here's who it is, who I want to work with. And we all need people that are working the booth, that are helping out with setup and everything there. There's a show every weekend. Obviously, we have Spiel, which is the biggest one in the world. We have Gen Con in the States. It's very big there, PAX Unplugged and so on. But at the same time, it's kind of difficult to know, hey, when are they hiring for these things? What's going on? Obviously, with the Facebook group, we have a lot of companies that are posting in, hey, we're getting ready for PAX Unplugged, we're getting ready for Spiel, getting ready for Gen Con, and they'll post up. It's about like $15 to $25 an hour now, average for an hour, and they'll usually cover your hotel, they'll cover a dinner or two, maybe they'll cover your travel, and that's a great way to get in there and meet all the different companies that are going on. But if you don't want to reach out to those companies there, we're having a new thing right now where there are hiring services where they cover general services for different companies. So like Cascade Games and Merchant Guild and Conhorde, where they can help. You can reach out to these companies and they'll go, hey, we're covering booths for Catan or we're covering booths for Ravensburger, and you can go work with those guys and they can kind of help you going on. So that's a really good way to kind of meet these companies and know that, oh, if I want to go work at a show, I can go there. That'll be very helpful. And so it's fascinating to kind of go, okay, how do I get these jobs there? That'll be really good. So next up, it's kind of neat when you think about, you know, hey, so as an example, where would you like to go work at? Like what kind of job would you want to do?
Game designer.
Okay, so you said game designer, right? So right now, are you working on a game at all? Yes, kind of, right? So one of the cool things is if you want to be in game design, I always be designing, right? And working on those kind of things there. But as you do that, there are really good ways. So as if you wanted to kind of learn how to do that, another great way to meet more game companies is to get a mentorship or to go to Unpub. So who here has heard of Protospiel or Unpub or any of these things? Hands up? No? Awesome, cool. So there's two really good organizations called Protospiel and Unpub, and they will work with Gen Con or Spiel or different things where you can go with your unpublished games, you can go play games and then get feedback from everybody there. But at the same time, that all builds up for having your game stuff. So then once you have your game, you can go, hey, I want to go meet different companies. So then you can start reaching out to the different publishers that are out there and meet their different companies and know, hey, because even if you're not getting a full 9 to 5, you can still be a person they could reach out to. I think one of the things that we think about when we think about a job is having, it's my 9 to 5, it's my regular job. But in the gaming industry, a lot of this stuff is freelance because there's only, some companies are 2 to 5 people, they're 10 to 15, but there aren't many that are over 35 and 75 and so on. So a lot of these jobs are freelance or part-time. So when you think about if I want to get a job working with a game company or doing these things, a lot of it is based on relationships or networking or kind of knowing, hey, I can do this, but we don't know who's exactly going on. So like when I was working at IDW Games, we had a few different game designers we would call on when we needed a game. I needed a puzzle game or a card game or a board game thing. So knowing what kind of games that are going on is a good way to do that. So you could work on your game design, get your stuff going, but even as you're doing that, you're gonna have to work on how do I do graphic design? How do I do this layout? How do I do all that there? And all of that stuff will add up for your experience because at the end of the day, we have more games we gotta make because 5,000 games come out a year, right? Are you looking for a job in the industry? What do you wanna do? Illustrator. Awesome, cool. So she wants to be an illustrator, right? So are you doing stuff right now? Are you on ArtStation? Are you on those things or? Fantastic. Did you bring your portfolio here? Got it. So you didn't bring your whole thing, but you'd have a little bit, right? So one of the cool things you could do in the gaming in the industry is definitely go around and you can go and talk to all these different companies that are going on. Obviously, being here at the show is very helpful because you'll build that one-on-one. You can go and talk to these things. But did you just come here cold, or did you reach out to any companies beforehand? Did you ask any companies for a meeting beforehand, or no? Sure, right? Got it. So she was saying that she didn't reach out yet, and you just kind of came here to show up. And that's just fine because being here is already on top of that, right? So now, even if you don't have a portfolio that you can do, making those connections early is fantastic. So if you're really good at cartography, you can do maps, or you like characters, you like backgrounds, or everything, right? Yeah. So knowing what kind of companies you want to reach out to and build that out is important. So I think as you're doing these things there, just kind of being bold and having that, hey, I want to go talk to these companies and do this stuff. And that can either be in person here at the show, or even afterwards, you go, hey, these companies are hiring for these things. And then knowing where your in is. A lot of the time, people will hit up customer service and hope it's going to be the right call, but finding the right person. So many companies have an art director, or they have an art sourcer, and that person will help kind of get all that going. So as you kind of know what companies you're going to want to reach out to, finding that art director or those things, or like a Lightbox, if we were in LA right now, we could be like, oh my gosh, you could walk around and be like, hey, I want to do stuff for Lorcana, or I want to do stuff for Wizards of the Coast, and knowing those things there, right? So having those relationships, obviously you want to get those, and we're doing that, going to these shows and doing these things is very helpful. So, but at the same time, you could go work at a booth and do a whole thing, you know, there's folk there and all of that. But in the gaming industry right now, and I think across the board, right, like I know that there's only so many jobs that are out there, right? And so I know as we fill out these applications, we fill out these resumes, do these things, but keeping on that grind is cool because there is a right job for everybody, but maybe not at the right time. And so as you search, knowing what's going on, so like right now, like as today, I think we have like 57 different jobs that are open, right? But even that, we have a lot of floating things. Hey, do you do art? Do you do game design? Here's who you can reach out to and get these things going. So as you're getting that going, fair enough. Okay, cool. They're from the Spiel live stream, but we're just going to let them hang out. Love it. Fair enough. So yeah, I think one of the main things, like as you're discovering jobs right now, is there's so many jobs that are out there. There's so many games that are out there and game companies that as you keep on that move, you can kind of look at it and go, okay, how do I get on that? But even then, you don't have to be attached to a company to have a job in the gaming industry. You can do that freelance work. You can do these things and kind of keep that up. I've got many friends who have worked at a game company, but now they're doing freelance work, and they still do all that as long as your bills are getting paid or whatever. So, but I think one of the big things that I've found is like mentorships and networking really kind of helps get that going. Because when we get a job application, like we'll have 250 people apply for the job, and it's like we have to go through all these things and make sure that we're giving everybody the right time. But it is tough, you know, and so you want to find the right people for the right job as you go around, and there is no right path to get into the space. So I think as you're looking for all those things, knowing what kind of job you want to do, checking that out is a good way to go. I can do more Q&A while we're at it. So are you guys looking for a job in the gaming industry? No? Oh, you're just hanging out. Fair enough. Oh man, I'm just pointing. I don't have my little dice going on, right? You guys looking for a? Great. He's designing his own game. Sure. So you're running a game for 20 years and you're curious, should you have a publisher sign it or should you self-publish? Is that the question there? So that's a great question, right? So you're worried about, am I going to get ripped off by doing a manufacturing thing and doing all of that? Comes down to having that gut check, right? And I think depending on what your game is, knowing what game company you're going to go work for, doing that pitch and doing everything there are many people that, I've got multiple friends of mine that they have multiple games coming out the year with different publishers and doing these things. Like one of my guys, John, he's known for his horror games and he's big things there, and he can make that nice like $20 to $35 card game or board game thing. And sometimes those publishers that are the right fit. You're going to talk to them, you're going to pitch to it, it's going to be great. And other ones you're going to talk to, and it's going to be like, well, you know, we're figuring it out, but then 2 years later, the contract still isn't kind of whatever. But the main thing is good people, finding what's going on, having that network and having this regular communication, that's what's important, right? And so I would say keep going on for it, right? Because like there's games that are awesome and everything there, and sometimes want to be a big hit. And then if not, you'll keep going, but not everyone's going to be a grand slam right out the gate, right? But keeping on that is what's going to be important. So I know I kind of rambled a little bit about the different stuff that's happening, but one of the things that I want to encourage that you do is as you're building your resume, your portfolio, your game design and doing these things, thinking about what kind of role you want to do and knowing that it doesn't have to be, I show up at 9 o'clock, I do my job, we're done at 5. Gaming is a creative, it's a passionate thing. We can do all that. And whether you're doing all of that, there's so many companies that are out there and they need game designs, they need art, they need somebody doing marketing, they need all these different things. And all these little facets that lead into it can be for that. We just hired 2 marketing people that were content creators, right? And they were influencers. And they're like, oh my gosh, now I want to work in marketing. And I'm like, great, this is cool because they've been in that trench doing the content creation and doing these things, but now they get to learn kind of the publishing side of it. Hey, we're not just out there doing TikTok dances and doing things. We have to learn how to make a sell sheet and do trade marketing and retail stuff. And so those are all different things that are out there. So a really cool place to learn about a lot what's going on in the gaming industry. Does everybody here know Scythe and Wingspan, right? So the Stonemeyer's website has a really cool blog section. And if you go on there, it kind of walks through all the different spots of the gaming industry, how to do marketing, how to do game design. Stuff on there is really good. For game design, you can go check out Cardboard Edison and Board Game Design Lab. Those are 2 really good places to go look into that. Also, Justin Gary, who does Ascension, he has a really cool Think Like a Game Designer podcast that you can go look onto. And Danny Lowe and Jen from Keymaster, they have a cool marketing podcast called Unbox Spaces, and you can go learn about the marketing in that space there. So, of course, if you join the Tabletop Game Jobs group on Facebook, I post in there all the time. So you can just shoot me a little PM and be like, hey, I want to do a job on this, and I'm happy to make time to talk about that. There's so many things that are out there, and how do you find it and do all that? And it's fascinating, right? I know I could get up here and just talk. I could do it for another like 4 hours and just kind of do all those things there. So it's just kind of figuring out what role do you want to do. And my main thing I want to like drive in is that a lot of the times people are like, Ross, I want to work in the gaming industry. And then I'm going to go, great, what do you want to do? You know, because there's so many jobs, even from like product management or shipping and logistics. Like I've got friends that were heavy into game design, but now they're handling the fulfillment of making sure that our games from China are getting into warehouses. And I never would have thought that'd be a thing they do, but like that's what they're doing now because somebody's got to make sure our games get overseas and get onto shelves and do all this stuff. So there's all these little things that add up to it that are really important. And there's some game companies that are massive, like Hasbro and Ravensburger and Goliath, where they have these big things going on. And there's other companies where it's like 3 folk. I've worked at a few startups where it's like we had a cool Kickstarter that raised a couple $1 million. We got our game going on. We're going to do our grind. And then we're, oh my gosh, we got to get into retail. We got to do these things. And someone's got to have that connection stuff. So as you think about it, you can work for a publisher. You can work for a manufacturer. You can work for a distributor. You can work for a retail store. These are all things that are kind of going on. So as you think about discovering what jobs you want to do, think about what you want to do. What game companies do you like, right? And then kind of doing some discovery on that. Nothing wrong with doing a deep dive on LinkedIn and kind of figuring out what's going on there, who's talking on some stuff. If you want to learn more about industry news, it's always very helpful kind of crossing that veil from consumer to industry. ICV2 is a really good news site. They cover all the regular releases for the gaming industry. Mojo Nation, they're a UK-based one. They're more mass and games. They have a lot of cool interviews talking about different things there. You can go on the Bloom Report. It's from Mary Cousin on People to Play. Every Friday, they have a big breakdown of all the major news things that are happening. And they have jobs boards on there too, which are all kind of good to read about as you go along. So I think a big thing already is being here and having that discussion. Oh my gosh, I want to go pitch my art to a game company. I want to go work on my game design, and having those things there, because gaming brings people together, and in that same boat, networking here is very important, whether that is online or that is in person. Kind of making those connections and being who you are is very helpful. So I've got 8 more minutes still. So, yeah, let's use the box. I love that. So who here has bring it on over. Here we go.
Who's first? Who was first?
Right here.
Yeah, okay. I'm talking to this directly.
Okay. Hello.
Hello.
As an illustrator, I want to ask in which platform I should create my portfolio for the best. I mean, ArtStation, Behance, maybe Facebook, Instagram. And is it important to have strong social media life? I mean, to build your own self-brand, I don't know.
So that can be helpful, right? So is having your own presence online cool? Yes, right? Like there are times where, oh my gosh, there's a illustrator or an artist that has a big following that has these things there. Not having one does not deter you from getting work, right? Having your stuff on ArtStation and having a good gallery, because most art portfolios at different game companies, their art director is going to review your gallery, your website, wherever you have all your art, and go, oh cool, we need that kind of art, we'll reach out.
But which is much more important when you where you are going to find illustrator for the job?
So it's a bit of both, right? I would say build your gallery out, and then I would reach out to a few companies, right? Because there are companies that have that, so Wizards of the Coast and Ravensburger and Asmodee and so on. They have these things that are going on there. There's the GAMA is the Gaming Manufacturers Association, and there's a big Facebook group for them. And hey, we're looking for artists on that. So GAMA is the Tabletop Game Association, and you can join for $100 for a non-voting member, and you can join as a creator, which will put you in the artist category, right? If you join that, then you'll get access to their membership directory, which then you have emails for all the different game companies and so on, and you can reach out and go, hey, who does your art, sourcing for these kind of things there, and you can do that. But also, emailing the customer service to different game companies, don't always include your gallery right away, but ask, hey, where can I send my art submissions to, and do those things, and that will be helpful for that. Now, of course, if you have your stuff online and you have something go viral and then a game company sees it, I think a really good example is Flamecraft, right? From Cardboard Alchemy. They had their artist, and they saw her art with the little dragon doing the creme brulee for the cute little food it was, and they reached out to her, and that's how that Flamecraft stuff went from there. So I think having a bit of both is good, but I think making sure that your gallery is important and then reaching out from there. But if you're going to be on social media and sharing your work, that's good too. Oh, we got a question over here.
You remember who was first?
Either or. Sorry, I saw him, but I have a light in my face, so we go there.
Hi.
Hey.
As a game designer.
Yep.
Some game designers are scared to talk about their ideas if they feel like they've got something new or unique idea in case people take them. What do you do? What do you say to encourage people to open up more? And
I would say,
when is it safe to do that?
It is safe to do that. I would say the biggest thing you can do is talk about your game. If you are concerned about your mechanic or your turn or your thing, if the minute you talk about it, people now have that associated with you, right? There are so many games coming out, and it's hard pressed to say someone's going to steal your game right from you and do that. It does happen like occasionally, but it's very, very rare. And they're going to go, oh, that's just like this guy's game. And so if you're on Board Game Geek showing that off, if you're in some of the Facebook groups showing it off, if you're in playtest things at an Unpub convention, that's okay, because the earlier you can get it out there and get it going on is good, because we all talk, right? So it's like, oh my gosh, I'm looking for a game that does this cool hook thing. Someone could randomly say, oh, this guy has this game, have you seen it? Right? So, when I was working at a game company and Hughes & Hughes was getting pitched around, when Scott finally came over to us to pitch it at the op, he had gone to like 5 or 6 other game companies at Origins, but they'd all gone, oh my gosh, you got to have the op check it out before we sign it. And that was a big deal. And that was a cool little graph color game thing there. So I think knowing that it's your game getting out there, hey, this is what I've got going on, it's okay to share it out, because if you don't talk about it, people aren't going to know about it, and then they're not going to see that. So if you want to pitch it and get it going, there's all these big unpub groups. Everyone's sharing and playing their games and doing that, because the more feedback you have, the better game it's going to be.
Probably a lot of people want to be game designer.
Yep.
And I know it's hard because most of the time the CEO or the leaders, they do the game design because they want to do it. But if you're like new to the industry and you want to do game design and you want to work, you want to get money, you want to work 9 to 5, you have any recommendations what to do as a job and how to get into the industry, like not just creating games by yourself, but also like just getting in the industry, you know?
Yeah, so first of all, I would say start designing your game, right? And work on that, because you're not going to get hired right away just because you want to be a game designer. So knowing what kind of games that you're going to be working on or that you can do is helpful. So like we do miniatures games. So when we hired our game developers, we hired guys that were in our playtest communities that were doing game stuff. So we already knew they could do the work and the number crunching and everything else there. But if you want to get into it, we need people that can do graphic design. We need people that can do all these different things to help bring that all together. So if you want to get into it, you can do that. I would say look out for a mentorship program. Like Unpub has their mentorship program, or there's different companies there. You can meet somebody that can walk you through it. I would say attend some of these unpublished events that are going on, doing that. I know that a lot of the larger companies like Hasbro and Asmodee, we have internships that go on that are seasonal. So you can reach out and do those things. And you can even ask HR, hey, when is that coming up? How can I be a part of that? And that'll be really good. So if you want to get into it, like I got my start by running demos at a convention and then ended up working into marketing that way, right? So I don't want to be a game designer at all. I like giving feedback, but that's not my jam, right? So, and that's okay. So I think as you get there, we have so many games that are coming out a year all the time that you're never too late to get into it, right? And then you could have a game for 20 years and eventually it could be a huge hit. Who knows, right? So I think if you want to get into it, reach out. I think you're at a good time where, hey, I want to go work at a game company, work a booth, do a thing, get to know all that, and just get that going, because there's so many different jobs you can do. And eventually game design, awesome. But I would say design now, that way you know what kind of games you want to make and get on that. And then you're going to learn so much about getting that going. And oh my gosh, do I have the right sizing on these cards? How does this flow work? And those things there. Oh my gosh, you could talk the whole time. Great. Hello.
Hello. Thank you for sharing your experience with us. I have a question concerning game designers.
Sure.
So, what is the typical former profession of those people? I guess most of them didn't study game design. And are there also people with exotic professional background, like a PhD in physics or something like that? I'm asking for a friend.
So I worked with Isaac Childress from Cephalofair Games on Gloomhaven, and I helped do their marketing for the Gloom Grandhaven Festival that had the second edition thing. Isaac obviously has a PhD and is a very smart guy and everything there. At some of the game companies that I've worked at, they've been engineers, they've been scientists, they've been doing these things. But also, like, I've hung out with game designers who are musicians, right? And all kinds of weird things. Everybody, you can bring your own experiences into games. Not everything has to be this number crunchy thing and all that kind of stuff. It can be whatever it is. I know my first, long story short here, my math teacher in high school was the guy that made Killer Bunnies. So like I had been doing playtest stuff since high school, but he was an engineer. He did these things there, that kind of stuff like that. So obviously there are awesome courses in game design and everything. I was just hanging out at UCSD, and they have a tabletop RPG entrepreneurship program where they're making actual plays and everything there. So I would say if you want to get into it and you want to be a game designer, obviously there are other backgrounds, but just start working on it. Like, everybody can bring their own experiences to tell their own games.
Thank you.
Awesome, cool. And
That's our time for today.
Yeah.
But you're still around. If people still have questions, are you still around here?
I've got to go to a couple meetings, but if you want to ask me questions, I'm on LinkedIn, I'm on Instagram. You can find me at Ross Thompson and do all that. I'm happy to talk about stuff if you have questions. I know I kind of just talked the whole time, and we did some Q&A stuff. I'm happy to be of service, happy to be of help, so we can do that. If you want to get in there, let's play some games.
Thank you.
Cool. Thank
you
you
for answering all the questions.
Great.